Yeah, time is definitely relative. If you take that one step further and take it to like different realms, like the cellular realm, the molecular realm, and then the atomic realm and the subatomic realm, like how much how does time operate in these different realms? Think about it. Every breath we take a breath every 2 seconds or whatever, and how long does it take for trillions of cells to exchange oxygen and CO2 and the waste and all that stuff? Like, it doesn't make sense that every couple of seconds the entire body can do that. So, how can trillions of cells exchange the waste and the good stuff every couple of seconds? It's because time somehow is operating at a different level at these different realms. Yeah, for sure. Wow, you're like a cat on steroids or a cat on heroin. Sleep, sleeping 20 hours a day. A cat on heroin. So, can you remember anything about being in the coma? So it wasn't a traumatic experience, and you felt that there was awareness there, even though there were no real perceptions? That probably has more to do with knowing who you are at a deep level than being brave. But yeah, bravery is the result, can be the result from someone else's perspective. That's crazy. It's like a Star Trek episode or something. That's wild. Yeah, see, your life isn't really you, right? Like whoever the awareness that is singular can just pop in and pop out to experiences and lives and worlds. If it's not if it's not basically mired in its beliefs, I guess. That's what I keep saying, is that this body basically is a machine. Like it is part of this illusion. It's part of the video game just as much as every other object and person in this video game. So this isn't self, and this doesn't have free will, and this doesn't generate consciousness or awareness, right? This is consciousness. It's awareness of something, but the awareness is intangible. Yeah, so the whole free will debate is basically no. The body doesn't have free will. It's just a machine, basically. And self is not the body. So you are not the body. So when you say I have free will, they're always referring to the body mind. But that isn't a system of free will. But you are not that, right? So I think the ultimate choice is whether you even want to come back. Basically, the fundamental choice is whether you want to keep playing the game. And if you're really taken by the game, then you probably won't have that choice, right? If you're completely in a state of delusion and really enjoying the game, then you probably won't be awarded that freedom to make that choice. It'll just automatically happen. There'll be a new world popping into your awareness. Yeah, so these bodies are being manipulated by the thought realm, by mind, to do its bidding. So that's a tough pill to swallow. The whole meaning of life and the whole spiritual endeavor is to come to the realization of who you really are, and that you're not really this, right? You're not the character in the video game, and the video game has no control over you. So when a person's meditating and thoughts come up, right? A potential action, like a potential choice, the appearance of a choice arises with a thought. Maybe I should do this, or check your phone, or go for a drink of water, or go get something to eat, or something, right? And then when you don't act on that thought, you just let it pass and you don't act upon it, then that starts to break the spell. Right there, as soon as you have if there's a thought the appearance of an apparent choice arises in your head through a thought, and you act upon it immediately, then it appears as though you're reinforcing the illusion that the mind is in control, that there is an I, and that it is making choices. But if you don't act on any of those thoughts, that illusion starts dissipating, and you realize that it's just a narrative. It's just providing narrative, that you can act and live and do life things without the I thought being involved, without choices seemingly appearing. And then you're just in flow with the universe. and thoughts is not flow. thought thought is against the flow of the universe. Acting on thoughts is against the flow of your dharma, I guess. So we have it opposite, right? We have everything inverted. Hmm. And it just requires a lot of meditation, a lot of stillness, a lot of just quieting that freaking voice in your head. Oh wow. Well, who like really calling it something, does it make it that? Like it's all very subjective, I think. And it's sad that you can't trust any humans anymore. I don't know. It seems like there's something to not naming something and not believing that you have something that kind of makes it maybe go away. But if you say, "Oh, I definitely have this," and then start treatment for it, well, then you probably will. It will appear that you definitely have that. Well, whatever you have, it isn't you, and it doesn't affect you at all. So that's the spiritual quest, is to realize that you are nothing in the movie affects the observer of the movie unless they want it to, right? A person can choose not to act vicariously while they're watching a movie, right? Like you get stabbed in the eye and you go like this, or you could just go, "Oh, that's all just pretend." But that's pretty advanced stuff to be able to transcend physical pain, Ramana Maharshi type level stuff. Hmm. Yeah, I've had times like that where someone, like, I've had an operation, couple of operation surgeries, and then they asked, "Doesn't that hurt?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know." Right on. Hi, Paige. I'm going to take a break from workout today. Maybe just go for a leisurely walk. Paige, you brought a whole group with you. Hello, Denissa. I hate to say it, Denissa, but I think Gaia is dying. I think it's even time for Gaia's cycle to be concluding here. And I'm not sure if there's anything that can be done about it. If there is such a thing as planetary consciousness and Gaia is the Earth consciousness, I think it's passing. I think that's what's happening. And I think we have to accept it. Yeah. None of that stuff matters to me. I didn't even pay attention to it. I don't, yeah, it's just another day for me, but it is fascinating though how it the moon is exactly the same circumference as the sun, like it fits exactly over top of it. What are the odds that when it passes, right? Between us and the sun, it seems to be exactly the same size in circumference, right? Proportionally, of course, to the sun. And there's another, like, how does the moon, how is it always facing us? How is it not rotating? Like, there are things that I don't think anyone could, maybe a solution seeker could tell us, oh, well, this is why the moon is always facing the direct, always exactly in the same alignment around the earth as it rotates. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, right? How it's rotating and yet always facing us in the same way. I don't think the narrative that they provide, being astronomers, it makes sense to me. See, it's all projection. Like Einstein said when he was when quantum mechanics was being introduced, Einstein said he didn't like believing that the moon wasn't there if you didn't look at it. It's like, well, if this is all being projected, then yeah, it isn't there before you look at it. It's actually the senses that are projecting the appearance of a moon. Short version is all experience is an illusion. Yeah, they think that they're providing enough narrative to explain how it happens. But there's always gaps between the narratives, right? Like there's always, well, what about, you can always just keep going, right? Like you can just provide more narrative, I believe. And that's because it's just being projected. Like it appears as we want it to appear. It appears as we believe it should appear. And then when it appears as we believe it should appear, then that becomes objective reality. But it's not objective at all. It's all moving and in flux with what we believe we're going to see. It all pops out of the potential, the pure potential of the unmanifest. It just pops in immediately. There really, there really is no linear causal effects. It's just bizarre, but it really is just appearing and then disappearing, appearing and disappearing in a frequency immediately now from the nothingness that is potential. Yeah, exactly. But when you focus narrowly in on something, it appears as though there's a linear causal effect, right? That if you zoom in with your with your awareness, the senses onto into a narrower focus, it appears as though that is a separately existing object that is influenced by a linear causal effect, cause and effect thing going on here. But it really isn't. If you pan back, right, if you don't allow the words to come in and you just witness the whole, all of it at once, you basically pan back instead of in, focus out instead of in, then then you can kind of get an understanding of how everything just comes in all at once. The entire universe, your entire world flashes on and off in a sequence at like one with 43 zeros after it every second. It flashes on and off, and that's what's really happening. Yeah, so that's what's happening, and I believe that's what the wave function is actually trying to describe. The mathematical narrative of the wave function is explaining, is expressing how the entire your entire world flashes on and off, including the body, on and off in a sequence all at once. So I have this theory that consciousness that mm, what we would call human consciousness, the thoughts that are rising in our awareness, I believe is being the source of those thoughts is within the body, because the source of sensations, right, physical sensations, the five sensations can be found outside the body, but yet the source of thoughts, the voice in your head, cannot be found outside the body. So it must be inside the body, right? So, and then if you look at the cellular, molecular, atomic, subatomic realms as being different realms, it seems like the interaction of those realms coming bubbling up or whatever to this realm is what causes what bring gives rise to our thoughts, or what we would call a human consciousness. So if we extrapolate that to what we would call a planetary consciousness, then perhaps all of the life that's on the planet, like trees and plants and animals and humans, is what's generating Gaia, which is what would be called, like, we are basically the cells of the planetary consciousness, but humanity is is basically a cancer within the system. So humanity is killing off. Yeah, humanity is a cancer within the consciousness of Gaia, and that is causing Gaia to die, basically, just like a cancer cell within a body goes amok and causes the death of the host. So, like, humanity is literally a cancer within the consciousness, within the biological entity of the planet of Gaia, and that, yeah, it all kind of makes sense to me. But what science has done, unfortunately, is they've blurred the line between thoughts and sensations. It's all just lumped in and called mind now. So there's no, it's just too ambiguous, and it's all lumped in together now. So no one can make sense of anything. What they're calling consciousness and the hard problem and all this stuff. It's because they've mixed. They're not making the distinction between the the realm that's inside the body, like the cellular, and what's out exterior of the body. The body should be the dividing line, and those things need to be kept separate. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is, because it's thoughts that is taking our attention away from the physical realm of the senses, right? It's thought is basically in competition with the physical realm for our attention, because attention is life, right? Attention is the life force that manifests and animates everything. So as we're taking our attention away from the senses, that's actually what's causing the death, right? It's the narrative of climate change and all that stuff. It's just it's just the mechanism through which it happens. But what's causing it to happen is us taking our attention away from the physical realm, which you know so well about, Denissa, because your videos are all about being in nature, and out here I'm in nature all the time. And most humans are not within nature anymore. It's just humans around humans in concrete structures, right? So yeah, for sure, it's just our attention being drawn away from the physical realm onto the digital realm. That's basically it. That's causing all the problems. So what we need to do is very simple, right? Simple in theory, but very difficult in practice, is to just pull our attention away from what we've created, the technology, and just remain like nature, like animals. Like my cats sit around all day and just look out the window, right? There are a couple of eagles out there. They just sit. That eagle, there's an eagle right there, and it just sits there for hours, right? And this is what we should do. This is what we need to do in order to evolve naturally, right? Naturally evolve into a higher level of self-awareness. But what's happening is that we're going in, we're being distracted into a lower level of self-awareness. So it's a devolution. It's all so simple, right? Just pull your attention away, turn off the fucking screen and go outside. That's it. Just turn off the fucking screen and go find a forest somewhere. Yeah, it's very simple. Well, yeah, so that's what my model says is right. So there's I believe that there are 10 dimensions, but they're not physical dimensions. They're not physical realms that you can measure like science wants it to, like physical movement within space. The 10 dimensions are quarks, subatomic, atomic, molecular, cellular, biological, well, body or whatever, planetary, solar, galactic, and then universal, right? These are the realms. And let's say that our past, we've already gone through the iterations of quarks and subatomic and atomic and molecular and cellular, and now we're here. We're at the, like, if you will, the sixth stage out of the 10 stages. But what's unfortunately happened within humanity is that we're downgrading now. Like, humanity, unfortunately, is devolving. So we're taking a step back because we're paying attention to our past. We're delving into our past when we're fucking around with these different, right? And we need tools, right? We need technology to look at cells and to fuck with cells, and more and greater and greater and greater technology and higher thoughts and higher uses of energy to keep messing with these other realms that we've already gone through, right? Like, this is the steps on the stairway to heaven. There's 10, and we're on step 6, and now humanity's going to take a step back now because we're looking back at the fucking steps, right? Like, we've already done this. We've already gone through. That's why it's all part of our body, I guess. So yeah, so if we didn't develop technology and symbol, and I believe that's what happened with the other half of human consciousness, is that when the first use of symbol occurred and we realized that we weren't the body, we were that the what we were was not the body. That's when half or whatever, and a quantum of consciousness went to an evolved to the planetary consciousness, right? So that consciousness probably just fucked off and went and became a planet. Like, I know this sounds crazy, but I think that's what happened. And now we're at the very edge, like the ones that are left. We played this right to the very edge, right? So now We really need to stay rooted and grounded in the physical realm so that we can also take that next step, that next step into the next natural step of evolution of greater self-awareness, and I believe that is planetary consciousness, or just straight out enlightenment, which would be the end of all of it. So there's a fork in the road, and most of humanity is taking they're turning left, just like freaking NASCAR. They just keep turning left, always turning left. So most of humanity is taking that fork that goes into devolution, but there's that other fork in the road, the road less traveled, which is no quarter, of course. That's what Led Zeppelin is singing about. And that's what Danissa is doing, right? Danissa is really focusing on the physical realm and just remaining in the physical realm so that she can take the right path, and literally the right path, the correct path into a higher degree of self-awareness. And then the third option, which would be like one in a million people or 1 in 10 million people, would be just enlightenment. Just like, I'm not taking any paths anymore. I'm just sitting right down here and not moving anymore. But most of humanity is blindly following. They're turning left again, and they're just blindly following Maya. Yeah. No, it's good work. Like, I agree with I'm in alignment with both of those. Either sitting down on the path and just saying, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore, and just trying to jump straight to enlightenment, or just remaining focused on the physical realm and just letting natural evolution take its course, and then right, and then you're on the planetary consciousness or whatever. You're taking the next natural step. That's cool. I just don't agree with saying fuck it and just going down the other path, taking the left path. I don't. That's not my gig. I would advise people not to do that. But everyone's free to do what they want, of course. But they have to pay the price. They have to pay the karma, and that's when they start bitching about life not being fair and wah wah wah. It's like, well, this is the agreement. Yeah, me too. I don't agree. I believe that's a devil, like, you're literally you're falling deeper into delusion. The left path is the path of further delusion, deeper delusion. Yeah, World War III may have started. Oh, that was last night. Well, things are escalating. Yeah, things are escalating in the Middle East. Yeah, you don't need to know. It doesn't, the details hardly matter. It's obvious that we're going extinct. Like, it's obvious that the trajectory that humanity is on is inadvertible, and we're on the road to destruction. It's just it's just a matter, is it going to be 2 decades or 5 decades or fucking 2 years? Who knows? But it's the nuclear realm. Like I keep saying, we should not be messing around with these other realms that we've already gone through. And this is what's causing the big problem. So the nuclear realm are messing around with the atomic realm and the subatomic realm will be our demise, right? Nuclear power plants will melt down, or nuclear weapons will be unleashed. So messing around with the nuclear realm will prove to be what kills us and what destroys the evolution. Yeah, it's exactly de-evolving. And it's the voice in our head that's instructed the bodies how to construct the technology and the tools that project the appearance of the atoms and all that stuff. It's we're so wrong. Everything that we've done is so wrong at such a deep fundamental level that we have to just scrap the whole project, right? We just have to stop. See, Danissa, what you call human beings, I think is evil. Like, you can't even call what you think is the good and the natural human. Human, to me, human equals cancer. So when you say, where are the real humans? Well, the real humans are the cancer. That's what I think. Maya Maya wants to attract our attention. So that's all Maya wants. Is Maya doesn't care whether you think you're a body mind, or if you think that you're a software hardware. It doesn't matter, right? As long as it keeps you in the game, that's uh that's its goal, is to just keep you having experiences. That's the goal. That's how it's programmed. Okay, well, I guess it's a little bit semantics. Again, a human thinks that it's your name here, right? Roy Frank Dobson is a human, but Roy Frank Dobson does not exist other than as a fantasy, right? So to me, what you and I and the other 5 people that are here, we're transcending our humanity. To me, I guess again, it's just semantics, but to me, humanity equals cancer, and therefore I do not associate. You know how people say I don't identify with a sex. Well, I don't even identify as a human. Like, so it's not just I don't identify as a man or a woman. I don't identify as a human. So I guess I really would be an it. Yeah, it's just, again, it's semantics. It's just the way you have it understood in your head. It's like saying the ego and the self, I guess. The true human and the not true human. Mm. Yeah, but the reality is it's not an experience. It's not just this, only better. It's not. It's the reality is basically dreamless sleep, and this is an appearance within that reality. So there's nothing there, right? There's one thing there, right? Reality is just there's only one entity, there's only one awareness. So there's nothing relative at all. Right. So it's tricky, right? Because the dreamless sleep state is always there. It's just like outer space, like the stars and everything are always there, right? But during the day, we just can't see them. But that is the state, that is the natural state, is that it's always there and visible. So the dreamless sleep state is always there, but it's the waking state that clouds, that obscures the vision of the night sky. But it's actually the nothingness that's the reality. And but it's not nothing, it's just you, right? So I almost guarantee you, Danissa, that when you die, you will probably create a wonderful realm, a wonderful heavenly realm in the physical realm as maybe a planetary consciousness, and it'll be great, but it still won't be the reality. It'll be a great fantasy, but it still won't be complete enlightenment. But heaven's pretty good too, right? So definitely on the right trajectory. But you'll be taking the right path, and I might be sitting down on the path and saying, "See you later." Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? Is that if if there's anything that stands out, if there's any experience, that's still not reality. That's still an illusion. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that if you have 100% self-awareness, there's no illusions anymore, right? That's the end of experience. So it's just the experiencer. Just right? So there's I hate the word nothing, but there's nothing relative to you to experience because it's all just you. So there wouldn't be any manifestation of anything at all. It's just complete. I can't explain it. I can't describe it right. But there's no experience, right? Just think of dreamless sleep, and you never switch to the waking state. You just are always in the dreamless sleep state, but you're aware of yourself in it as it. See, yeah, I'm a writer and I like the words, right? I like using words. So I don't believe it's another form of existence. It's existence itself, right? It's not a form of existence. It is existence itself. So it's tricky because it's the life force that gives life to everything. So the reality, the self, what everyone's looking for is always here. It's always here now. But you just have to, this is what I'm trying to show people, is that you just need to shift your awareness, you shift your focus subtly off of thoughts and off of sensations and find that stillness that's always the same, that's always there, that's omnipresent, right? So that's your divinity. So that's what I'm trying to show people. But you actually have to do this. You have to engage in the practice of sitting still in a quiet room and finding that stillness, finding the space between thoughts, finding that stillness and silence and ever present potential from which sensations arise. You need to engage in this. It's a vertical process, not horizontal. Yes. So the ego is operating on a horizontal process and spirituality is vertical, right? It's tapping into something transcendent. So this is the importance of actually, yeah, and look, as soon as I start talking about this, like half the people leave, right? As soon as I start talking about actually having to do something for yourself and engaging in it yourself rather than just being freaking spoon fed and expecting to just take a fucking magical pill and just everything's going to be fine now and I found reality. No, you have to actually engage in this and it might be very, very, very difficult. But if you don't engage in it, then you're just treading water. You're not getting anywhere. So it's the simplest thing to do, but it also might destroy your entire life, right? Because what if you don't sit down with your family and watch a movie with them? What if you sit in a chair instead and engage in this? And your family or your friends or whatever, they're all doing human things, normal human things, and you don't want to do that anymore because you're playing, you're actually engaging in the game. Then those relationships may fall away. You may get divorced, you may lose your family, you may lose your friends. But that's what makes this so difficult, right? Is that you have to give up everything that's an illusion to find the reality, right? This is the sacrifice that needs to be made. This is the sacrifice, the crucifixion of the ego. Take up your cross, right? And crucify the ego. And that might mean that everything that the ego has generated in this life by the I want to do this, I want a family, I want this, all of that might collapse, but it's all an illusion anyway. It'll all collapse at your death anyway, right? So let go of it now, let go of the illusion now before it's ripped from your freaking grasp at death, which will really hurt. So just engage in this. You have to. And you can't just meditate for an hour a day and then go and watch freaking YouTube for 5 hours a day. It doesn't work that way. You can't let a watch unwind and then wind it back up again and then let it and expect it to ever stop. Expect your karma and your suffering to ever stop. You have to engage in this fully. There's nothing but the game. This whole life is the game. Okay, yeah. It's a very select few are ready for this. So the 7 people that are here watching this, please actually engage in this. Don't just think this is something that may be entertaining for a while. Like this needs to be your lifestyle. This needs to be how you live because it's the only purpose of life. And if you're not engaging in this, then you're just missing out on the purpose of life itself. Yeah. See, non-conceptuality is seeking out those who are very, very ready, right? Like I don't even want to try to convince people anymore. Either they see it or they don't. I'm done trying to convince people. But for those who see it and want to engage in the practice, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for those people. I know, but I know. And then I tell them to suck it up because and then I'm a inhuman, asshole that has no empathy. It's like like you signed up for this. Like you designed this yourself and then you signed at the bottom line. Yeah, okay. I'm going to play this game and no matter how I'm going to take this drug or whatever, take this trip. And then no matter how intense it gets, I'm agreeing to this. It's basically the Tao. You're basically signing everything will be equal. As much up that you experience, that's how much down you'll experience. Right? There's that's the model. You can't have an up without a down. You can't have a positive without a negative. And the more that you want more of one thing than the other, the more that's just karmic debt that needs to be paid because it always reverts back to balance. Oh, bless you. As soon as the very first time I saw you, Janessa, I was like, oh, this girl gets it. Like, I was drawn to you immediately too when I saw one of your first videos. I'm like, yeah, there's something about this person that is ready. She gets it at a deep level. Hmm. Well, then that's non-conceptuality is already proved invaluable because it's reached half a dozen people, but at such a deep level, right? At the deepest, most meaningful level possible. So that's why it's so fucking important. Like it's Scientology has millions of followers, but it's not important at all because it's nonsense. And non-conceptuality has maybe a dozen followers, but it's the most important thing. And I've found that the more that I let it go, the better it. Even my life is all about my enlightenment. It isn't really about spreading non-conceptuality to the world and all this. That's actually kind of more Maya because my existence is for me to realize enlightenment. So if I just keep remembering that and holding to the practice, then non-conceptuality will have its own path, right? It'll organically grow without me trying to force it. Yeah, the doing unfolds without any. It just unfolds. The doing comes out of the being. The doing is a natural doing in complete harmony with the universe if it comes from the being, right? There's no I that's doing the things. If you say I am going to XXX and then you try to do that, then that is exactly still turning left. So these long debates about free will is like, well, if you had 80% less of those thoughts entering your head, right, whether to make a choice or not, then you could actually determine whether there's such a thing as free will going on. But they're so they don't, I believe, have any control over their minds. So they just they don't understand even what they're talking about when they say free will. They just assume that these choices that arise actually have choice in them, but it's not. You're going to do what you're going to do anyway, and you're just choosing the narrative to describe what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, what's going to happen is going to happen regardless of what you think of it, regardless of the I that's attached to the narrative of that. It's going to happen or not going to happen. And that's becomes evident when a person says, I'm going to do X. Let's say there's a will. Here's free will. Have you has if you say I am going to do X and that was your will, like you genuinely wanted to do X, but then you ended up not doing X. Okay, well, where's free will in that? Did you actually have a choice? And then when you say the opposite, when you say the inverse of that, say I'm never going to do that again, and you say that with utmost conviction, and you're willing yourself to never do that again, and you end up doing it again anyway. Well, again, that was an illusory choice then, wasn't it? Because it mattered not. It was irrelevant to what you said because you did it anyway. So where's free will? And it's probably 50-50. Half the time you say you're going to do something, you don't do it, and half the time you say you're not going to do something, you end up doing it. There's no free will. These are it's a narrative of what's happening. And we can kind of see in the future what may happen. And we're just trying to provide a narrative to what's going on. There's no choices being made. And free will isn't freedom at all. A, a choice is a burden, right? A choice is a burden. It's a limitation and a burden. So actually having choice is a limitation on the potential. So what we consider to have to be free makes us free actually is enslaving us. Right? Having to decide upon one thing or another is a burden that causes anxiety. There's no way around it. And that the effortless way is to just be in flow with the universe, which is the transcendence of thought. So easy. Like, this is so easy to understand. I'll go for 15 more minutes. Whatever that means. It's a little early to start planting things, and I'm going to be so busy with my drone business. This is our first season, and I think Canada is going to be, it's going to be, the wildfire season is going to be like last year was unprecedented, and this year is going to be even worse. So, and it's just me out here. Paige won't be moving out here till the summer or the fall. So there might not be much of a garden this year at all. I just won't be here enough. But I've got over 8,000 square feet of garden ready to plant. We've got it tarped over so it's not growing any weeds. It's just ready with our perfect growing medium soil, um, loam type stuff. That's just, yeah, so it's just ready. It's just ready to plant and go. Uh, yeah, 2025 is when I'll have the water. We have an artesian well here, and we're going through, this area is going through a really, really bad drought. So, where other people are losing their wells, like not having any water in their wells, we have water running out of the ground. We have fresh spring water running out of the ground, where other people are like, their wells are running dry. So, obviously, to me, that's a no brainer for a business. So, next year, this year, drone business, wildfire, and next year, Moksha Farms, which is the water, it's fresh spring water. We're going to bottle it. And then also just a whole lot of produce. I wish you lived in Canada so it'd be easy for you to just come here, Denissa. Yeah, I'm planning on maybe even drilling another well. Isn't that great? Do you filter it at all? Yeah, the microplastics and stuff in the water. Oh, it's also crazy. Like we're literally being programmed to become robots from the inside out. Like it's crazy, right? Like we're it's like we're moving towards some sort of unification where the cyborgs are becoming more like us and we're becoming more like cyborgs. The robots are becoming more like us and we're becoming more like robots. And in the middle, we'll meet somewhere And that'll be the new iteration where people think that they're the robot. It's nuts. Oh, I'm only going to be here for another more 10 minutes. Jen Can knows the story anyway. It's the same old shit I say every weekend. I got nothing new. You must be a healthy person. I'm guessing obesity is probably not quite as prevalent as it is here. Boy, is there a lot of fat people around here. North America is just disgusting with obesity. And the taste of growing your own food, like right fresh out of the garden, out of this perfect growing medium, the taste is just amazing. Yeah, it's they just add sugar to everything basically, salt, sugar, and fat. Yep. Yep, I do. My entire life, all my jobs have been physical. I haven't had one office job. It's always been lifting heavy objects. I it's probably my this connection that I've had with gravity. This this arrangement I've had with gravity that makes me so grounded in this world, in the physical realm, because me and gravity, we've been a couple for quite a while. Oh, I can't bench press. I don't lift heavy anymore. When I was younger, I used to bench, I don't know, like 225 for 10 reps, like 80 pound dumbbells for shoulder presses. Pretty strong, but I don't lift heavy anymore. It's too hard on my joints. At my age, what's that? Running on a treadmill? Never getting anywhere? Or my spin bike? Yeah, I do spin bike. That's like following John Vervaeke, right? Just spinning and spinning and spinning and not getting anywhere for 60 hours, 50 episodes of breaking the meaning code. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and then to f- and then to fool yourself to think that you're actually getting somewhere, that you're actually expressing truth and wisdom. I don't know what qigong. That's a game, isn't it? No, I mean I've even tried to point it out to John. It's like what you've just tell me what the purpose of life is. Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? And how do we do that? Oh yeah, qigong. Yeah, yeah. So if if someone who's trying to tell us that he knows something about reality, then why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? And how do we do that? Like there was one video where someone, I think it was Kurt, right? Kurt Jumangal asked John to describe the meaning crisis. And 14 minutes later, he concluded, and so what's the meaning crisis? He can't even describe what he thinks is the problem. So he's just lost. He's really just flailing around, floundering about, saying a bunch of stuff that he's learned from someone else, and then a whole bunch of people follow him and think that he's wise and that he's leading them to truth. Yeah, these guys, man. I'm I'd like to give him one of these, right? Like, but again, I guess you can't like Paige keeps telling me you're dealing with like children, basically spiritually they've evolved to childhood level. So you shouldn't go around backhanding children, right? Like they just are where they are. Yeah, I've even lost a couple. Like on Twitter, I used to have 10 followers and now I have 8. Like it's just uh, I'm doing the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing because everyone else just wants to engage thought, which is John Vervaeke does. He just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and talks for 50 fucking hours. And that's what people want, right? They want to be interested because having that outward interest makes them reaffirms their existence, right? So it's reaffirming. It's just I know I exist relative to the thoughts that I'm having, right? So he just provides interesting thoughts that keeps someone engaged in the thought realm. So therefore they know they exist relative to the thoughts. So it's just more Ponzi. It's just more Maya, but really interesting Maya. And I've pointed this out to him, and I know that he's listened to me because he's actually responded to me a couple of times, but the conversation doesn't go very far. But I know he even meditates, right? Like he has that included. And I even met him halfway. I said, listen, it's just meditation. It's not like you're all wrong, but there's one thing to do. And you just barely fluff over it, right? Like he includes a little bit of a guided meditation for a few minutes, and then he just goes on to blah 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 blah. So I'm like, dude, you're on the right track here, but you just don't stay on it. If you just stayed with meditation, that's it, and transcended thought. But he can't because he's an academic and he's too programmed. He's just too programmed to believe that thoughts are true. So it's a little bit frustrating to see how he's right and then point out how he's wrong and how he's right and have him just completely ignore me anyway, right? Oh, well, maybe in another iteration. I don't know. The thing is that unfortunately, the more that this becomes, the more that my predictions become true, like become obviously very evident and clear that these predictions are coming true, that more and more people will come to non-conceptuality. But unfortunately it's like buying gold, and when gold goes up that means that the world's falling apart. So as the world falls apart, and especially when people realize that science isn't going to save us, right? Science is what's caused this. Science is not going to save us. When people come to that realization, then I think they will come to non-conceptuality, or they'll dive deeper into their own faith, right? Most people will just dive deeper into Christianity, right? They'll just pray to their imaginary god even stronger, and it won't help, of course. So, yeah, I think as people get more desperate and the more it becomes obvious that science and technology is not going to save us, then more and more people are going to come to non-conceptuality. Yeah, it's all collapsing now, isn't it? Like everything that thought has created, all the institutions are all collapsing simultaneously. Like everything that thought has created is is showing itself to be transient and basically incorrect, right? The wrong way. So the government system, is there anyone on the planet who trusts their government and believe that it's functioning properly? How about the legal system? In the States, people are just gangs of people are just walking into stores and walking out with stuff. And the cops are shutting like the cops don't even respond to minor offenses anymore. Like someone will break into your house, well, no cops coming to save you. And like what about the financial system? What about that institution? Well, that's obviously falling apart too. So all of these systems of thought are collapsing simultaneously. And this is proof of my theory, right? If people want to look at it objectively and realize that how all of this is falling apart simultaneously, Rusty's back. Well, yeah, like again, the whole monetary system is again a fractal expression of what's going on within consciousness, how we're moving away from the physical realm being our focus to, right? It went from gold, which is a physical ounce, right? An ounce is a weight. So that monetary system should be based on freaking gravity. And then they removed that, and then it became a piece of paper, a two-dimensional piece of paper with basically no weight, with a freaking digit, a number on it, right? So that is an expression of how we are moving into a two-dimensional realm with symbols that are taking the place of actual senses. And now what's going on, the next step, of course, is removing that piece of paper, which is a two-dimensional object. There's no more physical objects at all in the system, and it's all just digital. Like it's exactly what's happening in the big scheme of things. And it's a Ponzi. It's the system is trying to be its own source because we've lost connection with the real source. So we have to manufacture where the source comes from. And the source can't be part of the system. The system comes from somewhere. And once you lose connection or understanding of that source, then you try to make the system itself its own source, and that becomes a Ponzi scheme, which is fiat currency. And that allows to only harvest, right? So the analogy I use is that what modern monetary theory does is it tries to just harvest, right? They don't even believe that there's cycles anymore. There's no business cycle, there's no cycles within nature, right? Like they're not using nature to learn from and base their system on that. They're trying to take nature and the natural system out of the entire equation. And look at what's happening. Like you can't just harvest. It's insanity, right? You need to plant and then it needs to grow and then you harvest. A harvest is like one quarter of the process. It needs to die and then the process goes again. It's absolute, yeah, it's literally madness, right? Humanity is literally insane. And but we refuse to ignore it. We refuse to accept that humanity is actually completely mad. We're totally insane. Yeah. Because it's just so easy to turn on the screen, just to flip it open, to turn on the screen and just, right? Just completely give in, just completely give in to the illusion. It's so easy until there is no more screen. And then what are they going to do? They'll be lost. Hello. I don't know if I've seen you here before. Are you new? I guess I can hardly stop now when there's a new person in. A potential non conceptualist. I've got to lure them into the fold. No, no, I'm all Ramana Maharshi, which is basically just the transcendence of thought. So the- I don't know much about other systems. I don't really adhere to any systems of thought. I, it's all about, I've developed my own system and it's exactly the transcendence of thought. I don't even want to try to fill those boots. Thanks. I am a faithful devotee of Bhagavan. Well, when people break the code of thought, when they realize what it really is, that's almost that I've been a slave this whole time, right? You almost laugh because it's so comical how we've been enslaved by the voice in our head, right? Like we just, all this time, I've been, what I thought was self has been a slave. And then when you realize that you can, there's a choice, you don't have to do everything that the voice in your head says. You don't have to adhere to it at all. That's a big moment. Yes, Mona. Now you're talking my language for sure. It's all about Mona. The silence of the awareness that's underlying all thoughts and sensations, right? That you're in tune, you're aware of the potential from which all thoughts and sensations arise. And that is the silence and the stillness. Well, it's about time, Callie. Hi. Where have you been? Everyone's been waiting for you. You coming up? To know that you have to recognize that there's spaces between the thoughts is the step forward. Yeah. And just to pay equal attention to the space between the thoughts as the thoughts themselves. Just always be aware of what's going on. Always be aware of the awareness. I think being aware of the awareness is the same thing as just saying being the awareness. It's a little redundant to say I'm aware of the awareness, but I think it's a valid way of describing the state of being awareness. Tittles? What's a tittle? It's very titillating. What kind of title? I don't want a title. Hmm. Eckhart Tolle is good. I don't really I feel no need to keep up with any teaching anymore. I don't read anyone. I don't listen to anybody's YouTube stuff. I have no guru anymore. It's just Ramana. So I've completely concluded the searching, and it's all into practice now. I don't know if I'll ever if if crypto does what I think it's going to do, and I cash out for lots and lots and lots of money, maybe I'll advertise a little bit, just a little nudge, just a little bit of advertising towards people who are ready. I just want people who are ready, the ripe fruit, to have access to this. It's not about convincing people who are not ready. It won't matter how much convincing you lay on someone. If they're too deluded, they won't get it. They don't want to. But I do think that maybe some advertising might be in the cards in a few months, in 6 months or a year or something. What's amazing? Well, that's what this is. Like, this is the heart of non-conceptuality, right? This is where it was born, and it's a pretty cool house. It's almost made to be a communal type house. So Paige and I have plans of building our own home, and we will just live at night and sleep in our home. And this will be kind of a local hangout place where there may be some people who live here in a communal type situation. But eventually, we want a community here that's primarily focused on spirituality. Because if everyone is egoless as possible in a community, then there should be hardly any problems. Everyone should be more or less aligned to work in harmony with each other if the goal is spiritual. So I'm teaching the same thing that Ramana did, and I'm trying in my best way to express the stillness that he expressed in his primary teaching, which is the stillness. So non-conceptuality, to me, is Advaita Vedanta. It's the pinnacle of Advaita Vedanta, because Advaita Vedanta is the end of the teaching. And even some Advaita Vedantists, teachers, they just want to keep teaching, it sounds like, which I agree with everything that some of these teachers say. but I feel like there isn't enough importance placed on the practice, right? So the teacher himself, the Advaita Vedanta teacher himself, is still subtly attached to the teaching, right? Because he teaches and he doesn't really sit in stillness like I do as his teaching. So to me, even some of these Advaita Vedantists that I really agree with, um, they just don't quite go far enough. So if you're still teaching Advaita Vedanta, then it's not Advaita Vedanta because it's not the end, it's not the conclusion of the teaching, it's just more teaching, right? So to me, most Advaita Vedanta's teaching isn't Advaita Vedanta, whereas non conceptuality is exactly the end of the teaching because it leads directly to the practice, which is the transcendence of the teaching. Once a message is understood, there's no need to keep going over the message, right? Once you understand the information of what's to be done, the information that the message is relaying, once you understand that, there's no need to go over it and over it and over it and over it again, right? That just shows that you don't understand what the message is saying, and you just keep going over it and over and over and over the message. You're attached to the message itself. Unfortunately, you're not getting what the message is saying and transcending it. And unfortunately, that's the way just about all religion is, no matter what they call it. It's just more and more teaching. I'm thinking about a dozen people. It's 30 hectares, which is 70 acres, and it's non-zoned, right? There's no zoning here, so anyone can come. I don't. Anyone can come and build a building on my property if I allow them to. As long as it's up to code, I could probably have 100 people living here, I think, right? Because there's no zoning. But I think a dozen people would be would be perfect. Well, I might as well stay for 18 more minutes to make it a nice round 3 hours. No, 12 minutes. Oh, I don't care if I'm called religion or not, or the tax exempt thing. I don't care about any of that. I hesitate calling it a new religion, but I don't know what else to call it because it's not science and it's not really religion. Oh, I hate philosophy even more. I'd rather call it a religion than a philosophy. Some of the most deluded people on the planet are philosophers. That's it. It's non-conceptuality. That's it. It's its own thing. It's completely its own thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good title, right? It In screenwriting, there's something called high concept, and a high concept idea is where in the title of the movie, it's relaying information about the movie itself, like Liar Liar, right? Liar Liar, once you understand the premise of the movie, is a perfect title for the movie. And non-conceptuality is a perfect title for this investigation because it's exactly that, right? Isn't it? It's exactly non-conceptuality. So what do we call that? Well, it's not at all, right? It's like Vedanta in one word, non-conceptuality. I think non-conceptuality is the best expression of Advaita Vedanta. It's the newest version of a legit Advaita Vedanta. But it's like decentralized. It's a decentralized philosophy or religion because there's no leader. I'm not the leader of this, right? So it's it's decentralized in a way because there's no rules written down or no ruler. There's no rules, right? It's the exact transcendence of a ruler. I guess the universe becomes the ruler at that point, or Brahman, whatever you want to call it. Oh, I haven't gotten that far yet. I don't know. It'll work itself out. There will be some people that have skills, right? Like gardening, but I have no mechanical abilities. Like I am the antithesis of a handyman. So we need someone here that can fix cars and stuff. So that's high on the list of priorities is someone that can fix shit and build stuff because I'm not that person. Well, there you go, right? Like, yeah, man, like where do you live? Where do you live? I probably You've probably told me already, but I forget all this shit. I apologize. Do you live in the States? What? Have we spoken about this before? Probably, eh? You live in British Columbia, Rusty. So, Rusty, are you saying that you live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada? No, you don't. Do you know where? You don't really know where I live, right? Like, I haven't really expressed precisely where I live. This is blowing my mind, Rusty. Rusty, when are you moving here? Quetzal Lake? Are you kidding me? Oh, we might have to talk. Quetzal Lake. I know that sounds familiar. Like, okay, it's not real close, but it's closer than Vancouver. It says that Quetzal Lake is 6 hours and 45-minute drive from me. So in the big picture of things, that's pretty freaking close, right? Like that's almost like what? Well, shit. I mean, you could just zip up here for a freaking visit sometime. So Quetzal Lake is different than Quetzal. And you have a floating home? How cool is that? We have a really big lake here. Vancity. Oh, so it's an actual town name. It's not Vancouver City in one word. Okay. Well, that's very cool. There's yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch for sure. Is the Fraser River even have enough water in it to float a home? Is it pretty getting pretty low? Hmm. Yeah, I've got so much stuff that needs repairing here. Lots of mechanical stuff that can be done here. I know. That's pretty wild. It's almost like, this seems like one of those things that was going to happen. JanCan. Even JanCan is close. Yeah, like I'm well, 24 hours by plane. Yeah. Yeah, by plane, everything's within 2 days travel. Yeah, it depends on your mode of travel, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I expect to be very busy this summer, but in the fall, like late fall, I'll probably have time for a visit. Well, this has been a cool one. Things might be starting to oh yeah, Slovakia. I always forget Slovakia. The tiny country. Yeah. Slovenia. Yeah, yeah. Starts with an S and it's tiny and it's in Europe. It's okay. It doesn't really exist anyway, right? Slovenia, Slovakia, Canada, none of it really exists. Well, Rusty, this has been very interesting. I have a feeling that we're going to meet up someday. All right, gang. I'm out of here. Uh, hold to the practice. It's all that matters. See you next week.